Every tree has roots, every life has branches, and every adoption has a story. Some stories begin with questions, some begin with loss. All of them are rooted in love and the search for connection. This is Janet Monroe, and this is Roots and Branches Adoption Stories, a podcast where real stories take root and grow. Because the more we share, the more we understand, and understanding helps us grow. Now, here's Janet Monroe.
Hello, and welcome to Roots and Branches Adoption Stories. I'm Janet Monroe, and I'm your host. I am a birth mother, a storyteller, and someone who believes that our roots shape us, but they do not have to define us. This is the show where we explore adoption from every angle: the adoptee, the birth parent, and the adoptive family. Today, I'm speaking with a young lady I met at an online networking event just last week. She introduced herself by saying, "Hi, I'm Catie. I'm a crazy redhead and a podcaster." And I laughed and I said, "Well, I used to be a crazy redhead and now I'm a podcaster." When she told me the subject of her podcast and I told her mine, she looked at me and said, "I was adopted." Well, that was a match after my own heart. So for today's episode, I decided I might just have to become a crazy redhead again to match Catie, even though you can't see me on radio. Catie's story is different from many that we've shared. She was never separated from her biological mother. When she was 2 years old, her mother married, and he adopted her. She grew up believing he was dad until she was 12. And that discovery changed the way she saw herself, her family, and her place in the world. So today's conversation asks a question many families quietly struggle with. When should a child be told they are adopted? Is it best to always know? To wait until they're older? Or does the timing change everything? Let's find out, and let's talk to Catie. So, my crazy redhead Catie, welcome. I'm so glad to see you.
And hello. Hi, Janet. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it. We had a really great time on the networking. I think we just clicked right away, me being in finance. You're like, "What brought you into finance?" And I was like, "Well, I have a true crime podcast and I'm really into, things being fair and justice." So yeah. And so we had an awesome conversation. So
yes, we did. I'm so happy to meet you. So
I am very excited to be here. Yes.
So today, let's go back to the beginning. You
Okay.
were born in 1987, and then your mom got married in 1989, and then you had a dad. So I am assuming that you don't remember too much from before you were 2 years old and before he came into your life.
Not too much, because if I ever want to bring something up, they're always like, "How would you know?" You know what I'm saying? So, I remember being with my mom all the time. So I was the type of baby that, honestly, I was very spoiled. I remember not wanting to touch grass. I would tiptoe over the grass. My mother put me in frilly dresses and, just very good kid. My mom said, she didn't even have to baby proof the house at all. She actually said, she may have started a problem because she would always carry me. She would never let me go. And, her friends are like, "Hey, Kathy, you should let her walk, let her develop." So my mom and I years ago talked about that, because she's like, "Well, maybe I did something wrong there. I didn't really," she's like, "I kind of not smother me, but she really I was her whole world for those couple years." And then when she met Rick, she got married and then had Mary and then had Ricky. And it was a very different dynamic. Absolutely.
You said your parents were workaholics.
I would definitely say they were workaholics, 100%. Always. My mom worked like 3 jobs. My dad always worked a couple. I didn't even really knew what my mom did for a while. I knew she cleaned houses. She worked at the bank. I found out that's how we all got, really good dental care. So shout out to mom and dad. I'm so glad you care about what we look like. Because that's where we got the insurance, was when my mother worked at a bank. So we got braces and very, very good dental health. And then my dad just decided, like, hey, I don't want to work for anybody, and I want to run a restaurant. I want to own my own restaurant. And my mom was just like, please, no, because she came from the restaurant business. She knows what hard work it is, because my mother ran a $1 million restaurant outside of Philadelphia in the 70s and early 80s, I believe, called the Lobster Pot. So shout out to Delco family out there. But Rick, he wanted that dream, he wanted to open his own place in Virginia. And I had no idea as a child that, me being older now, I have a very different perspective, excuse me. Like, Janet, you and I were talking about, when you're a teenager or you're young, you have your whole world, right? Like, your feelings, they just overwhelm and consume you, and you don't really see the other perspective. You're just always like, no, mom and dad should be doing this, and they're not. So, and that is, and I think if people who are listening right now, feel that way, like, hey, my parents didn't really talk to me that much. My parents didn't, tuck me to bed at night. They yelled and screamed at me. I'm sorry that happened to you. That is not good at all. Like, as I'm growing up, that's called emotional intelligence. Some people just don't have it. But what I can say about my family is that I'm very grateful, because we did have clothes on our backs. And even though they didn't show the kind of love like how I wanted them to show, they showed in their own different way. And I feel like that is very important. And also communication. That's one thing I wish they kind of did more, because a lot of parents, you guys think we kids are like straight up independent. Like, I don't know why, but as soon as your goth daughter, okay, that's fine. I'm goth, still am. It's not a phase, okay? But as soon as that happens and they start shutting you out, what I tell parents today, Janet, I'm like, get in that room, first of all, knock on the door, okay? Get in the room and just hug them. Just hug them. And just say, I'm proud of you. How can I help you? And I swear, if that was done a lot more for us kids, or probably a lot more millennials or Gen X or what have you, maybe even boomers, right, Janet? I feel like a lot of people's perspective of childhood would be a lot different. Don't you agree?
I agree that there's a lot more that we can do. And today, life is so much different from when I grew up, because my dad worked and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And today, people can't afford that. Both parents have to work. And then the child becomes a latchkey kid, as it was called back in my day, where they have to go home and be alone at home and wait for the parents to come home from work. I think that makes a huge difference as to the way children are today, and how they're so dependent on the electronics, because that's basically their parent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But so tell me how you felt at 12 years old when you found out that Rick was not your biological dad.
After we had that conversation, Janet, I actually called my dad. And I just want to say thank you. We had some kind of healing session, okay? As cliche as it sounds. There was no yelling. There was no screaming. And I told my dad how much I love him. But I asked him, how did I find out? He thought I was a lot younger. But my perspective, of course, is very different. So I wanted to know, this is what I believe. Can you validate my feelings? But he thought I was way younger, and he honestly wasn't sure. I tried to call my mom and she hasn't called me back about it yet. So I told him, I'm like, listen, I'm about to be on a podcast and I want to tell you that anything that I say on the podcast, if you have a very different perspective of what happened, please let me know. But I'll tell you what I know. So 12 years old, because my dad, honestly, shout out to Rick, I don't even call him my stepdad. I call him my dad. He's my dad. He reminded me of like Robin Williams, I'm saying, from the 90s. Very goofy, made faces, jokes, silly. Same with like John Travolta from Look Who's Talking. Like, that's my dad. But then at like 12, 13 years old, there was a shift. And I don't know if as soon as I found out he wasn't my biological father, it actually was kind of detrimental, honestly. I feel, because Janet, you asked, you're like, is it better to know when you're really, really young, right? Like it's nothing? Because I'm on the fence about it, Jan. I'm actually still thinking about it. A part of me is like, yes, bring it up when they're young, okay? And be like, yeah, so, the guy, he just went away. He's not in our family, but we have this man who you have seen since you were 2. This is your dad. He loves you. He's there for you. He goes to all your games. If it was talked to about like that, maybe. But the way it was just like flat out, like just it was like, and like word vomit, I feel, because it's they didn't even like, I guess, prep me, to receive this information. And my dad said that was the kind of area when I turned like goth, I guess. He was like, you got all into the dark clothes. You started not, staying in your room. You got all really weird. And I was like, okay, Dad, I was a kid, why didn't you like reach out? And then I asked him why did he get so angry all the time? And why did he treat me very different? Now, listeners of this podcast, something that it didn't occur to me. So I know what happened to me. I know he was really rough on me and people who I grew up with, seen and heard some things. But I will say that my dad was also rough on my brother and sister. He was strict, my parents were both strict. And he told me on the phone, he was like, you kids, all 3 of you are very, very different. And if you think I didn't give them crap, you got another thing coming. He was like, you all got discipline in your own ways because you're so different. So I was like, oh, wow. So, like listening to that, and it makes sense because we 3 kids are very, very different. Like you would think we're kind of weirdly it's wild. So I look like my mom a lot, and then weirdly I look like my dad now. And he makes a joke with people, and he was like, "Man, I guess the more you live with them, the more you look like them," And I told my dad, I said, "Well, if someone asked me, Dad, how to describe you, I would say the first word that comes to mind is passionate." And even when he was angry, he was very passionately angry. He has a huge heart. And I called him, Janet, after you and I had the conversation. I say, you know what, Dad, you taught me how to be me. You raised me since I was 2. I have the gift of gab. I love people. I'm very generous. I'm hardworking. And I know that's from you. And then, of course, Dad was like, stop it, you're going to make me cry, Kate, But it was a huge dynamic because I kind of did have those abandonment feelings, and I think that's why I went to the wrong crowd. Not the wrong crowd, Janet, that was like drugs, alcohol, no shame. It was just people that were just miserable and dark, and they like dark things. And they just didn't have light, Like you told me that I have a light about me. Even though I wear a lot of dark clothes, dark makeup, I'm still very light, I think it's important to have the conversation. It depends on the kid. I think I would have really preferred it when I was young and it was just been like no big deal at all. Or they could have waited until I was like 18 years old and already, So that question is still hard to answer because I think it depends on the kid. I do not believe you should bring it up all the time. One thing my grandmother did all the time, which is my dad's mom, is she's like, I love you so much, Caitlin, even though you're not my blood. I love, and then I thought it was very sweet, right? When I was a kid. And then I told my mom that. She was like, God, that is messed up. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? Why would you say that? I mean,
you didn't understand what she meant.
I didn't understand. I just thought you're smiling and saying nice things, but you're just like, no, you're not my blood. You're a weirdo. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, and it's wild because my grandmother is the reason why I'm like fascinated by law enforcement. We watched Unsolved Mysteries together. We watched Forensic Files. America's Most Wanted was my favorite show. John Walsh catching the bad guys. So there's going to be different perspectives of somebody who is not from the family, especially when you don't look alike. My brother and sister, they look like supermodels. I'm not dissing myself, guys, please. I know I'm beautiful. Like, I get that. I get that. But when I was growing up, I was certainly the ugly duckling. I mean, I was like, I showed my husband my picture. He goes, that's you? I was like, yes, George, that's me. And he was like, you look so much better now. Like, you're part of the problem, sir. No. But I think the abandonment feelings, because before the podcast, we're talking about abandonment issues. And I know people roll their eyes like, oh God, here we go. But if you really never been through of like, you don't know what the truth is, number one. So I say, be honest with your kid. I mean, you can rip the Band-Aid off, which happened to me, but then I didn't get really good answers about it. I was like, okay, this guy, Brian Blaylock, like what happened? Like, why didn't he want me, And then you hear different stories. So even to this day, Janet, I don't have closure about my biological father. I don't. But I know I'm supposed to be here. And I know that you make life the way you make it. You cannot have an excuse. If you are in a bad way right now, you cannot blame where you come from. You cannot blame how you grow up, because so many people have gone through things you wouldn't even believe. So you literally have to make life the way you want, and just count your blessings. Because even though Rick and I, we were battled head to head for a long time. It was insane. Because, the astrological, he's an Aries. I'm a Virgo. My mom was an Aries. She's still an Aries. Sorry, excuse me. But like a different type of Aries. I don't know. Like when you do the moon and the sun and all that. But I digress. It just, I want to tell people all the time, like, because I see podcasts and I have guests on there, Janet, and they have so many excuses like, well, this happened and that happened. And I had horrific things that happened to me. And is it because I was adopted? I mean, I think it was because my mindset was very different. Because when you feel like you're not a part of something, especially your family, and you look at everybody else and you're like, man, I don't look like any of these people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, my brother and sister, very beautiful olive skin, dark hair, and then blonde and short and petite. And I'm like 5'9", curvy, a redhead, really pale. It's like, whoa. You can tell I'm the redheaded stepchild, It's like, yeah.
When you were growing up, after you learned at the age of 12, how did
Yeah.
you feel at school? Did it change your perceptions of school, going to school and your friends? Did it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My friends deemed my parents liars. They're like, wow, if they lied to you about that, Caitlin, what else have they lied to you about?
And
Yeah.
Did you keep the same friends, or did you end up having to change friends because of that?
It's weird, because when we think about high school or middle school, a part of me, Janet, wants to go back now and fix things. But then you realize you're like, my God, you were just children back then. You know, I think if kids are going to be crappy, then they're just going to be crappy. I mean, a lot of things changed. Yeah. I was in the newspaper, I think at like, I forgot how old I was, 13, 14, like a few years after, and people, started treating me different because I wouldn't put them in the paper or something. Um, it was really, really, really horrific. Like, cause I opened up to people and said, yeah, well, my dad is not my real dad. And they're like, oh, wow. So you're like a freak? Like your dad didn't even want you? And I was like, oh my gosh. And the kids were cruel. Like, I mean, I don't even, I just, it's, it's weird because you're kids. Why would you be that mean to somebody? I don't understand that to this day. So when I see them as adults, which is wild because they try to add me on Facebook and stuff, and yeah, I let bygones be bygones, but sometimes people that are that mean, Janet, I don't think that meanness goes away. Um, I think you grow up a little bit, right? I mean, hopefully a lot, but mentally, I think when kids have that like hateful, angry, you just picking on someone that doesn't look like them, I think that's in their heart. And I don't know if they can actually change that, because some bullies I've tried to meet in person and I still was like, oh my gosh, you're still the same. Yeah. So, yeah, Janet, that kind of like went down there. Yeah, I remember that. Like, wow, your dad didn't even want you. Like,
So was it
and then,
during that time when you began to feel that you weren't worthy, that you were missing something?
oh, yeah, 100%. I was just like, I'm not meant to be here. Like, me and my dad, Rick, are not getting along. Um, we just bumped heads all the time. I'm somebody who has a mouth, and I still do. So if I see something not right or if I don't agree, I will politely tell him how I feel. Um, but it was funny because he would ask me a question and I would tell him. He's like, "Quit talking back," and I'm like, "What? I'm confused. You asked me a question." What do you mean I'm talking back? And then I would go to my brother and sister and I'm like, what does dad mean? He's telling me something. And they're like, Caitlin, dad's just telling you to shut up without saying shut up. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I've always been a rebel since I was a kid. Like when I went on the wrong side of I guess the crowd or whatever, it was like the crowd where, you do the stupid truth or dare stuff. Like, I dare you to do this, dare you to do that. But Janet, I was the first one to be like, I'm not doing that. And they're like, what? Come on, try this, smoke this, snort this, try this. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I like to say I've never got into peer pressure. So maybe that was part of my resilience, because I'm like, wow, so if my real dad doesn't want me, I guess, but I didn't feel like that was his loss until many, many years later, because I did have straight up abandonment issues. It showed on my relationships. It showed my friendships. I was like a bleeding heart and a doormat to so many people. And I wanted everyone to like me. And I think that's maybe where it stemmed from, Janet. Now, of course, I'm much older and I'm like, no, I'm cool. If you don't like me, I wish you good well, but you're not in my circle. So have a nice day, Bumblebee Tuna. Like I say something random like that, Janet, that they're like, what did you just say? And then I just, and I just like walk away. But when I was a kid, it was different. I wanted everyone to love me. I would do anything for anybody. I would buy anything for anybody. Like it was insane. And I know now as an adult, I was like, man, I think that maybe did come from my abandonment issue, because even though anybody who's listening to this right now, they're probably like, okay, you had a parent, like who cares? It's different. Like when you don't look like them and you have very different values, and I'm very chill, guys. Like very chill. Like, yes, I'm bubbly and happy, but when I was a kid, I was straight up like reserved, quiet. I literally hid my body under my clothes, um because I've always been curvy, so I just always, and I felt like I just wanted to hide all the time because I'm like, wow, I'm not even worth it. I'm not even worthy of my goals and dreams. Like, somebody who created me left my life and I have no idea why. But when you guys get out of that mindset and you're like, okay, well, that happened. I'm alive. Barely, because the situation happened at 20 where I almost didn't make it. And I kind of like, and my whole life changed after that. But that again led me to like a toxic marriage, and it took years for me to like even grow. Like, you want to have to do better. Am I right, Janet? You would want to have to heal, like, of course, under a doctor if you feel, but I don't believe in personally a lot of prescriptions. I don't. So I do a lot of vitamins, supplements, a lot of sunshine now. I think it's important to have that conversation too.
Getting out of dark places.
Yeah, getting out of dark places. I was in one for years, very long time. My parents thought I was on drugs because I was so to myself. Like, I wouldn't even go outside. I lost all my freckles because, when you go outside, that's how you get freckles. But the kids were saying how ugly I was and how much I looked diseased that I wanted to get rid of my freckles. So the best way to do that, yeah, I know, right? And now they have it as a beauty trend now. Like, you have people getting freckles tattooed, and I'm just like, man, where were you guys when I was in school?
I used to go outside and hope I would get enough freckles that they would all join together and give me this great tan.
I was thinking that too when I was a kid. I was. And then, when I grew up older, because I'm like, man, because the older you get, the more freckles I feel like, and then, yeah, because I still have big freckles on my shoulder, but I get really freckled in the summer. And then I'm like, can you just like, blend together, And I try, girl. I try to do the spray tan. I did the tanning bed. Yeah. Nope. I'm just going to stay pale and, pale and good vibes with my red hair.
So looking back now,
Yeah.
do you think you were treated differently because
100%. Yes.
by family or just by everybody else?
It's weird because when you're a kid, you don't really notice, but then when you find out information like that, it's kind of like, okay, example, Janet, when you bought your first car, right? And you could have sworn you don't see that kind of car anywhere, but when you bought the car, then you always see the car that you bought everywhere.
Yes.
Right? That's what I believe happened to me, because when I found that information, things started to click. Like my young brain was like putting all these scenarios together, like the looks or the surprise or the way too overcompensating, or you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I know, like, if my parents listen to this, they'll be like, we treated you right, we treated you normal, we treated you like the family. And I'm like, you didn't. You literally did not. I was just very, very different. And I thought my mom was also mad at me too, because again, I don't know the story, guys. I've heard 3 different stories about my dad. I heard that he did not want a girl, and as soon as he found out I was a girl, he was out. Like, bam. The other story I heard was, again, he did not want a girl, but I have apparently 2 sisters out there, 2 half sisters out there in Colorado. I would love to meet you, And then another thing was that my mom couldn't stand him. And then she just blocked him. Like she just was like, nope, you're just out of my life. My mom's a very like amazing, strong woman. When she told me that, cause I'm, older, my friends have kids and they have baby daddies and stuff like that. But my mom straight up was like, wait a minute, wait. So how much money is he going to give me to like deal with him? No, I'm good. So she signed papers to like not have any child support because she's just like, nope, I can do it on my own. You can get out of my face. So, I don't know. I just, ever since I didn't know the truth at all. But people really did treat me differently. They may have not thought they did, but the looks, the eyes, the little gestures, But of course, if my sister, is here right now, she'd be like, that's because you were weird. That's because you were different. That's because you were gothic. And I'm like, okay, well, dark clothes, rainbow clothes, it shouldn't matter. I'm like, I was a kid, Again, that's one thing I wish they did. Like, the more I left and, like, was to myself and didn't talk to anybody. I mean, I literally didn't get out of my room. Like, but everybody kept calling my parents' house. And they're like, get Catie your own phone line. God dang it, she's always on the phone. So they gave me my own phone line, which was awesome, but then not awesome at the same time because, I had the 3-way call ambush. Remember those days, Janet?
No, I don't actually.
Really? You never had the 3-call ambush where a girl is just like, is this true that you like so-and-so or whatever? And then the girl's listening on the other end. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I think he's cute. And she was like, see, I told you. And then like, I'm like, what just happened? That is a 3-way phone call ambush. And they hang up.
Okay.
So.
Didn't have that happen in my day. I was lucky if I was able to answer the phone or talk to anyone on the phone for longer than 2 minutes.
Well, it had, oh no, I had the cord. I had the long cord. Right. And then my phone was kind of clear. And then I just was always on it and then talking to God knows what, so just always wanted someone to listen, but my parents were just annoyed very easily. But I'm not saying that because they're horrible people. Like, wow, you should never have children. I'm saying like they were just tired. I think, millennial parents, boomers, right? They're just tired. Like, number one, boomers and Gen X, you guys were not even allowed to tell your feelings. Like, you guys couldn't do anything, Janet. Like, if you were, walking down the street or said something too loud, then, the neighbor will hear you tell your mom and you get a whooping. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so different. Like, every generation, it's getting more lax and lax with kids. It's insane. Like, I saw this meme, you guys, where a teacher is, showing the student like, hey, you got a D, right? And then the meme is like the dad yelling at the son, like, oh my gosh. But then it said 2025, you have the teacher showing the report card a D, and then you have the parents yelling at the teacher instead of the kid. That's how it is now. And it's insane because it's like, how do you think it went like that, Janet? I mean, that's my thing. Like, I feel like authoritative figures, because one thing I always say is that no matter what happened between me and my parents, no matter if I was half adopted, whatever you want to call it, I always respected them. Yes, I talked back apparently, but I would never talk to my parents or say F you or, like, I think I said that like later in life, but as a kid you had, we were kind of scared of our parents in a way. I mean, you don't want to fear them, but you want to respect them. I mean, kids nowadays, they're like, yeah, whatever. So what? I'm like, are you kidding me? If my dad heard that, I would have been slapped. Boom. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I wouldn't even dare say anything to my
right. Yeah. See, that's a lot of stuff that you guys hold in, and I think that does affect the raising of children. I think that's why a lot of millennials don't have children, because we're the first generation that does not have many children, like, at all. That's why I don't know if it's true or not because we don't know anything in the media anymore, Janet, let me tell you. But the president gave IVF for free or something like that, is providing that because we need more people. But a lot of millennials were like, we don't want kids. I just don't. Now it could be because of the financial burden, like you mentioned in the beginning, Janet. You know, you lived in a time where mom stayed home, mom cooked, cleaned, made sure the clothes are good, all the things, and then dad came home with the paycheck and then a nice Christmas, and that was it. But us, like I said, my parents worked equivalent of like 3 or 4 jobs, I swear. They were never home, and when they got home, they were angry. They were just tired and angry. And I'd be like, Mom, welcome home. Give me a hug. And she's like, ugh, get off me. I'm hot. You know what you know, and like, again, they're not being cruel. I think you have to realize what is going on in the parent's life. And me as a kid, you know, feeling all these feelings and, you know, finding all this information and then having the kids just treat me like dog crap. It's like, where do you go? Right? So I say sometimes you don't have anywhere to go. I went into myself and I actually read. I read books and I started having idols. I love movies and music. So I started looking up their lives and seeing, you know, what they went through. And then I just started becoming a dreamer. And like anybody who listens to this podcast, Janet knows there's a reason. Like, why not you? I believe anybody can have a dream. I really do. When I was a kid, though, they were like, yeah, dreams don't come true. So be realistic. And that's just crazy, Janet, that was even said to me. Like, they're like, yeah, no, dreams don't come true at all. So you go in college for your school, and then you go and work for someone else. And then you maybe see friends and families once every 3 or 6 months. And then now, Janet, you and I talked about being in business for ourselves now, Queen, that we don't want to do that. We want to live our life the way we want. Right?
So I was taught that you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you work 40 hours a week for 40 years, and then you get 40% of your pay, which wasn't enough in the first place.
Nope.
So
no, it wasn't.
When you retire, there's nothing left. You just retire and you die.
That's not life, though. I mean, I believe we are here, you know, to be kind to one another. I believe we are supposed to make this world a better place, as cliche as it sounds. Like, you're not meant to work until you have like a conniption or a heart attack or a stroke. And then finally you relax when you're trying to heal from a horrible sickness, but yet you can't pay for all the medical bills. That's not how it's supposed to be. I don't know. I want to say, anybody who's listening, like, if you ever felt alone, you are not alone. And if you felt like you didn't have anybody, because there was a time I didn't feel like I had anybody. And I know that's going to hurt the people in the podcast who listen to this. I know it is. But the fact is, I really didn't. I couldn't show my authentic self until I realized I didn't know who the heck I was. When someone has gone through so much trauma, you don't know what you are. And then when you're like, well, okay, what did your parents do? Well, when you go to your parents and then they don't believe you, why would you go to your parents again for help? So you wouldn't. And I didn't.
And then you hold it inside and hold it in.
That's what I did for many years. And then I'm grateful that I worked in the restaurant business since I was really, really young, because that's where did that get me, Janet? That got me to people. That got me talking to anybody I want. Strangers just met me for 30 minutes and loved me. Came back in and was like, can Catie be our server again? She was awesome. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we can make our life the way you want, because I don't know. I just don't believe in blaming others for my problems. I did for such a long time. And you know where that got me, Janet? That got me more depressed. That got me more isolated. And that got other people angry with me. So I'm like, well, I don't want to live this life. So I'm going to have my own kind of closure. I'm going to move forward. And if I have an issue with anybody, I'm going to talk to them to their face and tell them. And then That's fine. You just gotta just keep on going. And when they push you back, when they push you down, you gotta go right back up. That was the nicest thing my mom ever said to me. Geez, Caitlin, when they really push you down, you get right back up, don't you? And I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
That's what we have to do, you know?
That's what we have to do.
We don't have a choice. We want to survive. We want to do well. We want to help others, and we want to be.
Yes.
We want to feel human. We want to feel kind. We want to feel grateful.
Yes, I do. I think you should definitely feel that way. I received amazing advice recently, Janet. Shout out to Tom Black. If you're not following him on YouTube, the Tom Black Show, or yes, I believe that's what it is. He's awesome. I have friends who are, so this is a very controversial subject. It's called incels. Have you heard of incels before, Janet?
No.
Incels mean involuntary celibate. I came across these characters when I was researching true crime, and I realized a lot of shooters are incels, which means they blame everybody else for their problems. They blame women because we're not attracted to them, so and so and so on, kind of thing, right? And they get angry. So Tom Black gave me this amazing piece of advice for people that are having a really hard time. Like, you are just so upset with your life. You can't stand yourself. You are so single for too long. What do? Go out and help someone. Go join a charity. Go and meet people. Get out of your head. Get off the computer. Go outside. Look up free events and do something kind. Pay for someone's groceries if you can. He was saying, like, the more that we give, the world will give back, and your mental health will do much better. So yeah, Janet, even pushing 40, I'm like, that is such great advice. Like, isn't that great advice, Janet? Just go and help somebody. Like, seriously, you may not think it's nothing. I mean, seriously, if someone really has to go over, you don't have to block them. Let them merge. Just let them merge. Whatever. I know when people cut me off, I blow them kisses, and they look at me like I'm insane. It's a great feeling because they think that I'm going to ride up next to them and give them the middle finger for cutting me off. But no, I blow them kisses, I'm like, there you go. Have a great day. And I think that we all need to do that because everyone is too scared nowadays, Janet. Like, me walking down the street in my neighborhood and going down and walking, because it's really nice weekend in Virginia this weekend. Like, oh my gosh. So I walked and this guy's like has his earphones on. I was like, hi, good morning. And he like jumped back. And I was like, see, that's the issue, man. I remember when I was a kid, we're like, hey, high-fiving each other, shaking each other's hand, giving each other a hug. Like, you know what I'm saying? And we're just afraid. So, I don't know. I feel like that's the best advice I've heard in a long time is just go out and help somebody.
So
Something
I was
that
in
is
the
so
retail
fun.
business for over 40 years. My husband and I
Wow.
had a custom furniture manufacturing business
Yeah.
and retail. And by the time I was getting out of there, I hated people. I just had enough of them. Didn't want to talk to them anymore. But then I got into multi-level marketing, and you have to talk to people. So the way I solved that was every time I went into the bank or the grocery store, just crossing paths with someone, always gave them a smile. And finally it got to the hello part. And then finally, oh, I like that shirt you're wearing or something. Just
Yes.
to start a conversation and make me feel better. Took a while to get out of that not talking to people into having conversations. But it works sometimes. Smiles make a huge difference to people. Just smile at someone and it can make their day.
Oh yeah. Just by and people ask me all the time, Janet, like, who do I know who to talk to and they won't get mad? I always say smile, just like what Janet said. And if they smile back, there's your permission.
That's right. So let's get back to the adoption part.
Yes.
So, you found out at 12. Is that too late? Would knowing sooner be better? Or would you rather wait until later out of school because of the way that kids react? How do you feel? So, for example, my son was told from an early age that he was adopted. his mom would say to him, "You're my favorite adopted child." Not all the time, like not every, but sometimes she'd throw that in so that he knew he was. And his best friends through school were adopted because there were a lot of adopted children at that point in time. I read an article the other day about a gentleman who was told from a young age that he was adopted, and he was adopted because his parents loved him. They gave him up because they wanted him to have a better life than what they could give him. And he felt like he was a superhero. And then he went to school. And as soon as he got into school and he got up to tell his story about who he was and how he was adopted, all the other kids gave him a hard time because he was young. He said, "Oh, they didn't want you. They threw you away," kind of thing. So is there a right age to know? Would you have rather known later after school and not gone through all that trauma at that time and known at a time when maybe you could understand it better or accept it better? Or how do you think it should go? Like, I don't know if there's any answer to that. It probably depends on the child and the parents.
Yeah.
But would later have made a difference to you? Or would earlier have made a difference to you?
I guess we talked about this in the beginning and I said it depends on the child. But for me personally, I think earlier. Yeah, I think earlier. I think it should have been like a celebration. I think it should have been like, hey, we have a special celebrate day for you. I know this is gonna sound silly, but this is what I would have loved. So I'd be like, "Oh, what? A party? What's going on?" And they're like, "Well, we want to tell you something. Can you come here?" And then they would get my brother and sister, "Come here, guys, come here." It's like, "Okay, now I want to tell you a story." And I want to tell you of, and I was like, "Okay, story time. Yay." It was okay. Well, that, your mom and I love each other very, very much. And I'll be like, "Yeah, okay." You'd be like, "Okay." And then they'll bring out like this cake. And it would say something like Happy Adoption Day or something like that. Now, I'm not saying every year celebrate. I think the one celebration would be enough. Because the more someone keeps harping on it, like my grandmom, "I love you so much, even though you're not my blood." Being told that all the time is like honestly horrible. So I think they should have done it when I was younger, had made it like not a big deal. Like, made a big, beautiful deal. Like, me and my, I just want to let you know that your dad loves you very, very much. And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I know I love you, Dad," And he was like, "But we want to tell you something, okay? You came in our lives, you came in his life at a different time." And I'd be like, "What do you mean?" And then my mom would explain. And then Mary and Ricky would probably be like, "What?" But they'd be like, "But there's no reason. Mary is still your sister. Ricky is still your brother. They are not your half siblings." And I'm very grateful that we'd never call each other half brother, half sister. Like, they're my brother, they're my sister. But I wish it was something like that, because I think it would kind of, it's a kid, you can mold the kid to whoever you like, but I think it should have been something like that. If you parents want to know, like, when's the right time? I think earlier the better, because you have to make it so they don't, because you're growing up. There's so many emotions. Kids are horrible. Now, if the brother and sister, are there during that time and they're like, "Wow, okay, this is different," but at least they could have been there to share the moment with all of you together. So that also makes a bond that can never be broken, because me finding out, and it was such a, it just hit me so core. Like, she just said it no nonchalant, like she just spilled tea on the ground. I was just like, "What?" Your dad's not your real dad, right? What? I mean, at least but I don't know. I was just thinking about it, Janet, because I was like, man, how would I? And I was like, I would like it like it's a celebration. Like, you came to us at a different time. Everybody has different timelines. Yours just came at a different one, but that does not make you any different. That doesn't make us love you any less. You're our daughter. And then if Dad is like, "Yeah, you're my daughter, it doesn't matter," that would have been fine. I think that would have been great. And then my parents not, telling me every year, "This is my adopted." No. You know, my dad always introduced me as his daughter. He never introduced me as his stepdaughter. And that's something I'm very, even though he was like mad at me all the time or angry, that's one thing when we went to parties, he'd be like, this is my daughter, Caitlin, you know, this is my daughter, Mary, this is my son, Ricky. And yeah, so I don't believe when parents want to be like PC, politically correct, okay, guys? And they're like, yeah, this is my adopted daughter. Yeah, this is, no, you say it one time. It's not a big deal, and you move on. And if you don't do that and they find out hitting almost teenage years and they feel like they've been abandoned, and then the kids hazing is really, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I didn't talk to my mom for many years. It was really bad growing up. But again, the perspective would be, guys who are listening, do it younger. I think the younger, the better, the more they understand. I'm guessing maybe before middle school, keep it elementary and make it like a party. And then just have it between you and the siblings and just tell them how much that it does not matter. You know, you are my child. And I think if that would have been done, Janet, I think it would have been a lot better, because I'd be like, yeah, so what? My dad's, you know, people, because my parents would be like, hey, you know, there's good and bad people in this world, right? Well, this guy didn't do the right thing. And then I'd be like, okay. And he'd be like, but you can live the life that you want to live, and you cannot let your past hold you back. So I feel like parents need to talk to their children more. I think that you guys think we're way too independent, like way too early in the age, because I would have given anything for had that conversation, because maybe things would have been different. And I'm not, you know, everybody makes mistakes. Like Janet, you said that when we're born, you don't get like a handbook that says what to do at every single moment. Am I right, Janet? So even if you have good intentions, it still can come across very not good intention. You know what I'm saying, Janet? Like, even though they think they were doing the right thing, sometimes you got to like step back and really realize, like, this is a decision. I'm guessing my mom got like tired of waiting, or she was mad at me. Who knows? I don't know. But when she like ripped that Band-Aid off like that, that was like the wrong time. I mean, it made me feel like a total freak. And then the kids calling me freaks did not help. So fun times.
If, what would you tell a 12-year-old today who just found out that they were adopted?
I would tell them, congratulations on having something else different about you, because each and every one of us have something unique about us, and you just had a little extra. And please know that this does not change any way that you are treated or felt, or your feelings are not valid. You're absolutely loved in this home. We will continue to take care of you. We'll be here for you to listen. If you need anything at all, I will always be here for you, and you can always come to me. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So let's take a couple of minutes to talk about your podcast, Dark Times. What does Dark Times represent?
Yes.
Dark
okay. Yes, Dark Times with Catie. It's a revamped situation. You may remember me as Tea Time, True Crime with Catie. You know, that was the before. But ever since Jan and I were talking about our businesses and everything, I feel silly, but I'm very busy. These documentaries that you see on my podcast, they took a lot of time. I researched, I wrote it, I filmed it, I edited it all on my own. And it takes a lot. So I kind of switched it to dark content because I've had people reach out to me on social media that are like, hey, Catie, can I tell my story? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm letting you know, though, I'm not a doctor, but I am somebody, like Janet says, the kooky, crazy redhead, but I care about you. because you may have seen this awesome meme. And I remember saying this even in like when I was in college. I was like, people can hate for no reason. That means I can love for no reason. So I always tell, and then it started off with Chris Conyers. Shout out to Chris Conyers. She was a survivor of the beauty queen serial killer. She contacted me through TikTok and told me that she wanted to do her story, and she was my first Zoom call that was recorded. But I'm going to look into this awesome Riverside. I'm digging it. But I usually just record a Zoom call and then edit it in Clipchamp, something simple. But her actually saying that, I like your vibe on TikTok, and after 40 years, I'm ready to tell my story. So that to me is absolutely powerful. There is a Hulu documentary. I asked her about it. It's very rough, by the way, guys. It's rough to watch. But it's also a case of Stockholm syndrome that I'm sorry to say that, but with everything that happened to that survivor, she was taken at 15. She was taken on the rampage. She saw things, and the way he let her go and gave her all that money. And yeah, it's a wild, wild documentary. Wild. It's on Hulu. And I asked her, I said, hey, were you asked to be on that documentary? And she said, yes, I was, but I wasn't ready to tell my story. But she's like, I'm ready now. So definitely check it out. She actually has an amazing nonprofit organization that is linked in that podcast for women today, tomorrow. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. And it is about when, that we really support violence towards women. Because one thing I've learned, Janet, I don't know if you know this, but there is a organization where when there is a woman who is victimized and she's about to get the R kit, I'll say, they actually can have someone there holding her hand. And you can train to be there to give her hope. And I did not know that. I'm personally looking into it, Janet. I would love to be there and say how strong and courageous she is. And that, she will get justice. But of course, Janet, I can't really say that because of what's been happening in the media lately about a lot of people not getting justice lately. So with that, that's awkward to talk about because, Janet, we've seen so many cases where, because of technicalities or BS, it doesn't work. But we do believe in the afterlife. So my mom always says, don't worry about it, Catie. Just because they got away with it in this life doesn't mean they're going to get away with it in the next. So definitely check out my podcast. I have documentaries about cases that people don't even know about. There are some really hardcore ones. I have dark history on there, but it is my baby. I worked very hard on my podcast. Extremely. Definitely follow. If you're wondering why I have over 100,000 views and not many subscribers, unfortunately, I trusted the wrong person to look over my page. I asked asked content creators, Janet, what do I do, for my channel? And they're like, oh, hire somebody who does SEO, make sure your page is working correctly. And this person ended up putting bots all over my page. So I cannot grow. I'm not monetized yet. But again, that's not why I got into the field. I got into the field so just because I know what it's like to not have your voice be heard. So when you're on my podcast, I want you to speak. I want you to say how you feel because I do believe that's how we all heal. I really do. That's what helped me. You can even write it down, right, Janet? Write it down and light it on fire and be like, it's gone. It's out of my life. It does not, because that stuff can really pull you back. And I was pulled back for a very, very long time. And again, I'm not doing it anymore. So, but definitely check out the podcast. I appreciate it. And if you guys are interested in telling your story, that is horrific, or it doesn't have to be, just something that you really want to let go that's been burdening you, you're welcome to email me at teatime, TEATIMECB, my initials, CB, teatimecb@yahoo.com. Send me your story, and let's all heal together. And Janet, I am very, very fortunate for being on your podcast, because you're doing the same. You and I have a lot of similarities. I feel like you have the biggest heart, and you're such a great mom. And you're doing this, I feel like, to heal people as well.
I certainly hope that it heals a lot of people. It gives everybody the opportunity to know that they're not alone. So, Catie, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on today. I love your personality. I love the love that you have for others and the kindness in your heart. So your story reminds us that truth is not just information, it's identity, and timing matters. To parents listening, there is no perfect formula, but secrecy can grow roots of shame, and truth, when handled with love, can grow strength. To the 12-year-old who just found out, to the adult who discovered it through DNA, to the one who always knew, your worth was never determined by who stayed, and it was never diminished by who left. If you have a story to tell, we want to hear it. Visit www.rootsandbranches. Sorry, I lost that. www.rootsandbranchesadoptionstories.com, or find us on YouTube at Roots and Branches AS. And remember, your story matters. This is Janet Monroe on KFED Radio. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, guys. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Roots and Branches Adoption Stories, where every tree has roots, every life has branches, and every adoption has a story. Got an adoption story you want to tell? Want to learn more about adoption stories? Then visit rootsandbranchesadoptionstories.com.